All right. Hey, Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Danny.
Yeah, I'm glad you could get some time out of your day to talk with everybody out there in the podcast. But just before the show, we talked about some of the things that you wanted to talk about, some of the things that you're been working on in your business, some of the issues that you've been having and overcoming. And I
Yeah.
want to dive into that. But before we do that, let's talk about how you got started. What got you interested in real estate investing? And,
Yeah, that's always a fun story, right? By the way, thanks for having me. I love the podcast and I really do listen to it a lot. So it's actually fun to be part of it. But so what got me started is like, I think most people, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I got out of college. And
what
that
was it
kind of,
about that book? I've been asking people now lately, what is it about that book it was the same thing for me, but I like to hear other people's perspective of what about it.
I think it's like the eye-opening part of it of like, like that what you were thought like the regular traditional way that you're taught that how to deal with money and how to invest your money and where is like you can take control of that and make something of for yourself, that can, make a lifestyle they want without you having to work for somebody else. Because I'm originally from Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. I came to the US to go to college and I played tennis in college and stuff. So in my culture, in my family too, like the traditional investments that you would call investments, right? People think is I'll buy a house, or buy a vacation home so you can have that, and, stocks and stuff like that, right? So when I read the book, it was like kind of an eye opening. I was like, okay, look, first of all, I think real estate is the avenue of wealth creation. That was the first one. But the other thing was like, in order for you to build a business, you need to, in order for you to be independent time-wise, you have to build something that allows you to do that. You can't just work for somebody else and expect to. So that was like what got got the juices flowing as far as that. But I really didn't do much. I just kept reading about real estate, read all the Kiyosaki books possible. And then within a 2-year mark, about when I was working for a big payroll company that in the sales position, was right when like kind of it was in a transition with my visa and the company and things like that. And, everything kind of like aligned, and I went to a seminar for real estate investing. And me and my wife went there. We drank it all and we said, let's go. Let's spend $25,000 that we barely had to learn and go all in. So basically she was still working, which I always say that she's an angel. She was teaching and she allowed me to go full time doing it. So yeah, so that's kind of how we got started in the game, basically.
Nice, man. So yeah, you guys ponied up a big investment. So that
Yeah.
was part of your thinking, well, if I do this, I'm going to be forced to take action because I don't want to throw all that money away.
It was a little bit of both. It was like thinking now, like it was more of one, like we really liked it and we wanted to like get educated. My wife worked in education for, she taught in college, so she was big in education, and we had no idea of how to do this, on as a business. So I think when we went to it, we were like, okay, oh my God, this is like, if I want to do it, I need to do it right. And this is the way to go about it. And there's no backing out, like, right. You $25,000 in, I have to at least make something work to get it back. So that was the other aspect of it too. But yeah, that's kind of how it was.
Wow. Yeah. So if you were doing it over again, do you think that you would still spend that money, or do you think that you'd find some courses that maybe filled in the gaps? Or what made that different and made it worth it to you?
I don't know. So I always say that I would do it again because I probably wouldn't be here without taking that step. So I don't like to like kind of regret it. But what I think for me was I knew what I wanted to create a real estate business, not just do deals. So that's just kind of how I get asked, like, hey, the same question, like, what is it worth the investment? And I was like, the investment that I made was completely worth it, because they taught me how to run this as a business. It was more of a course of like giving you the strategies of like this is a business that you're going to build, not just how to do a deal. So if you're trying to do 1-2 deals as a side income to kind of get things going, I wouldn't spend that money again. But if you're trying to build something, I think it's a great course, a great coaching program.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, because I don't know that I've ever had people, ask what the thinking was or how you felt about it, unless they were selling their own product. But I don't have a $25,000 product to sell, so I'm going to ask you without any kind of ulterior motive.
No, for sure.
That. So, that's awesome. And I think other people, I'm sure there's been other people that I've interviewed and talked to, that are successful real estate investors that don't mention that part. It's like, I got my education, but they don't mention the fact that they spent, that good. Money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it if you take action. Use it, right? If you use it.
That's part of the story, right? I don't think it's fair to, hide or omit that. I think it's just, that's my story. I've had people that didn't have to do the investment and are doing great. And I have people that spend more than me and are doing great, So I think it's part of your story, and whatever you feel comfortable at the time that makes sense to you, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about getting going. Like, how was it cranking up? I read your bio at the beginning of the episode, talking about the number of deals that you were doing the first couple of years, and then just kind of like blowing the roof off of it. And I think 2017, right, was when you were doing quite a bit more deals.
Yeah.
And into this
last year and this year were like the blow off part of it, since when I partnered with my current partner. Before, it was just me and my wife when we just started, like mostly me doing stuff, my wife helping me with a lot of things when she had time. But it was a funny thing, because actually the partnership, to give you a little bit of backstory, is he was mainly rehabbing houses, and we were part of the same education program. Okay. And I was kind of more wholesaling than I was doing fix and flips, but I like wholesaling, don't get me wrong, but there's some aspects of it that it's not my favorite. I like buying the house more and renovating than I do, assigning contracts and stuff like that. So
what is it about it that you like so much more? Is it just like the seeing the transformation of a property?
I don't know, the transformation, or I think there's two aspects. I think the transformation, having somebody like what you created, and then the other part is just the fact that I own the asset, as opposed to like, I think it's just the claim to, I always had a conflicting thing with wholesaling, especially when I was assigning stuff, that I was like, I'm really not buying anything, right? Like that's like, and I'm saying I'm buying stuff, but I'm personally not buying it. I'm like finding it. I'm a intermediate kind of thing. So it was more of a mind conflicting thing as well. That we still do wholesale, and we still do assign, but it's
those checks make it worth it.
It does.
To get over the fact that you didn't own it.
You forget when you're getting like a 10, 15, sometimes $25,000 check. You're like, it's okay. I can put it on the side and not care about it.
But that's interesting that maybe it's not congruent or with the way you feel about the transactions. It's interesting to hear. So what about this partner? So what made that make things take off like it did?
So like I was going back. So we had so he was mostly focused on rehab. So he would buy properties from wholesalers on the MLS. He would rehab it. So his main focus was on the construction side, right? And on my end, I was the marketing person. So I would do all the marketing, find the deals, wholesale them, and stuff like that. So when we kind of like, I bought my first flip actually bought from him. He was going to do it. And I asked him like, look, would you wholesale for me? And I did my first flip bought from him. Then I wholesaled one for him as well. And there's the pinnacle is a call story is that we had a deal that we were both looking at. And I literally went like 30 minutes before he went to the deal. And he was my go-to person to call if there was something about construction that I didn't know. And I called him. I was like, look, there's this burn house, and there's no roof. How much did you pay to fix your Burton's house roof? So I can calculate. That's the only piece of the math that's missing on my end. And he like told me how much he spent, and then I put it on my budget, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy this house. So I went there, and he went, like, he was literally standing in front of the house when I called him. So long story short, I ended up buying it, rehabbing it. But then that was the pinnacle. We're like, okay, look, it was the beginning of the year. Like, why don't we try do one together, right? See how it works. So we did one deal, and then another deal came, and then we just kind of like go, and they just flowed because he was focused on the construction, right? And I was freely focused on marketing and acquisitions, which took out that part that I was having to juggle a little bit as well. So that's kind of where things blew up, because
you stopped competing with each other.
Yeah. Stopped competing, and we allowed ourselves to focus on the things that we were better at.
Yeah.
Construction was him, and I completely forgot about that department type of thing. So
yeah, no, that's big. Yeah. And playing to your strengths and what you like doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're doing more and more deals, I don't know if people just thinking about getting into this business, what it's like to have to like do all those different pieces, because you're going to drop the ball somewhere, right? Like,
yeah, it will, especially if you're doing by yourself and you don't have help. Even if right now, like we're starting to kind of see where the areas that we really need more help because of the volume that we're doing and the amount of projects that we have going on. And then there's things like, for example, all this rain, delays your projects like crazy, and you're like, and you have crews that have to work. And so, there's a lot of moving parts in the real estate game that you have to understand. You won't fully know until you get to that point, right? But you have to understand in order to scale properly and not like make a big mistake and go out of business.
Right. Did you find yourself having more time to think through planning your business and planning your strategy once you guys started working together, to where you weren't buried with the daily tasks that you had to do?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially on the marketing side, I was able to dive in deep into, which is one of the biggest change shifts in our thing, was our audience and what message we were presenting to homeowners in our business. Before I was like, okay, I have to do marketing. So I was doing what I thought was good, but I wasn't really putting much thought onto who am I marketing to again.
Let me just get this out there so I can go do the other things I got to do today.
Exactly. So
yeah,
that's what the
So what kind of insights did you have when you started doing that, as far as the different messages going to the different people? Did you if it like probate, were you, instead of just saying we buy houses, you had something else in there? Or
no, it was more of like understanding the demographics that I was like going through the data that I had collected, the last 2 years, and the data that I had collected throughout the year, and like just go through and find, okay, like what's the prime audience? What's typically the people that call me for that? What do they look like? What areas do we really want to buy in? So for example, right now, we don't really market to the south side of San Antonio, just because it doesn't really fit too much of our buying criteria. Do we buy houses there every once in a while? Yes. But do I focus there? No. So, and then, okay, it's typically we have people that are 45 years old or older that have property, that have something to happen. So that's kind of where we started dialing down demographics. What type of houses do we want to buy? And then what message resonates for them, which was like, okay, look, it's not about, that's what I think, one of the things I'll tell them all the time is like, it's not so much about the necessity. There is like certain groups of lists that are more of like, I need to sell because I have no other option. But a lot of them are convenience, right?
Yeah.
I sell convenience. I don't sell, because again, they could put it on the MLS and,
so what you're saying is like, instead of the message saying, do you need to sell fast? To where they're thinking, no, I don't need to sell fast. I would like to, but I'm not in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking, well, this guy is just like working with people that are facing foreclosure or facing a tough spot, and this doesn't relate to me.
Yeah.
But what you're saying now is like, hey, we do this for convenience for you.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to associate with the person, or even if they are in a tough spot, they don't want to acknowledge that they're that person in the tough spot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it changed a lot as far as the people that were calling and the conversations that we're having. Is like, look, this is what we do for a living. It's convenient for people to sell to us because of, there's no closing cost. You don't have to wait for, you list all the stuff that everybody knows, right? So if you ever decide to sell, let us know. We'd love to, discuss an offer with you, type thing. So it's
Right.
more of like
It's not pushy.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, no,
Which
I like that. That's really cool. It's a great idea. We're gonna start using it now. No,
go for it.
we've been focused on messaging too with different
Yeah.
audiences and stuff like that too. And when you do have the time, like you said, where you built the time in your business to where you can kind of look at that stuff,
Yeah.
and as long as you don't get too far into the weeds of some of the minute things that don't really change,
Yes.
which
Yeah,
can be
that's the
tempting.
dangers of going through data and thinking over these things, is that you can kind of get like, but should I use the or this, like, and the wording? I'm like, just the message has to be coherent. Everything else is like secondary. You just need to move on
Yeah,
and do
put
it.
it out there and see what the results are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it can be tempting. Just and my problem a lot of times was just rewriting everything, and then I would send it out, and I wouldn't know what part of that like made any kind of difference at all because
Yeah,
everything was changed.
different.
And then a year later, I'd be back to that first letter of my mom. Just ridiculous. But it's just all about getting them out there too. I mean, if you're doing that, you're probably putting out more mail and testing and getting
Yeah.
more from
Yeah,
it.
you get. I think on the male side, it's a lot about volume and consistency, right? I don't think there's the magic pill as far as like, yeah, you can have the best messaging, but if you're not doing enough, you're not going to get enough deals. It's just the name of the game.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And it's also how you're handling when they get that and they call you, what that experience is like. So do you guys continue that sort of conversation in the same way when they call you? What is that like?
yeah, we have a Pat Live that we use to answer our calls, and then they get the basic information on there. It's not, I don't know. I have some uh, different things, but at least they answer the call. So every call that gets in gets answered. That's what's the most important thing. That's why we use Pat Live. But do I think there's a better option that I could use to get a little bit more, enticing or better conversations? Yes, but I don't know. For now, it's what works. And then what I do is, depending on when I get the alert on my phone of the new lead, I look at it and I see, okay, how hot of a lead is it for me to call back? And if it's a hot lead, I'll call back right away and schedule an appointment and go from there. If Pat Live haven't scheduled the appointment yet, so Pat Live schedules appointments for me too. So in case they haven't scheduled it, I call to schedule, or if they have scheduled, I call to confirm. And then I run the numbers and everything before, and then I call them the day of or something like that. But if they're not that hot, I typically run some numbers before I call them, and I'll call them kind of by the end of the day and just be like, hey, to kind of have a better conversation of a negotiation over the phone a little bit.
Okay. So how does Pat Live know which ones to set appointments for and which ones not to?
They set all appointments and all of them.
Oh, okay.
So and then my responsibility is to call them and say, I can't make it, or it's not a good, but at least I have, because I didn't have the appointments before, and it was a little bit harder for me to, call them back and schedule the appointment.
Yeah.
So when I put the appointment in, it was such a easier conversation because I already had something on the books with them. So they were like more.
Right. They weren't left hanging, right? They were
Yeah.
given something to
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah. And Pet Life has a parameter that we put on our, on their things that, like, look, don't schedule anything within a 6 hour, like, time frame, like nothing before, I think 8 or after 7, p.m. So they know, like, kind of where to go around and do.
Do you guys have like a shared calendar or something they have access to know when there's other appointments already set?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you want to double book or.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame do you allow on those time blocks when they block out a time for an appointment? How much time are they blocking out?
Typically it's, I think it's like 45 minutes.
Oh, wow,
Um,
that's it. And then,
yeah. And
so if
then,
you got to
but
go to another appointment right after.
I typically leave an hour out. Like I go back and fix because it's automatic. They just
Uh,
book it. It's not
I
like
see.
a thing, but I typically leave an hour. I try not to book like them back to back.
Yeah.
So I try to give like, if one is at 1, the other one might be like at 2:30, or depending how far it is,
Yeah, you
3.
gotta have time to go to Starbucks in between appointments. And
Yeah, and do whatever. For sure.
yeah, I mean, yeah, rushing from one to another, getting your mind reset and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Or, you don't want to be having to leave one if you got something that's working out and it's looking like you're going to get the contract and
exactly.
I gotta go. So
Sorry, I'll get the contract to you later. I
yeah,
have to go to another one. Yeah,
yeah, don't ever do that.
yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you another question too regarding like motivation. So what motivates you every day to do more and grow more? I mean, do you do anything that motivates you?
So on the motivation front, there's, I don't know. Honestly, there's right now I have like a 1-year-old and have another baby on the way, which
Oh,
since I
congrats.
hadn't heard, that was like that's the main motivation now. But before that, I think it was more of like just like knowing what's possible and wanting to do like and wanting to create something for me and my wife, and mostly like thinking of my wife as like she's sacrificed so much in the beginning to like let me do this, and I just want us to get to a point where she, she's happy, she does whatever she wants, and we as a family have that time freedom. And you look at back, like my family's still in Brazil, she's from Serbia, her family's still in Serbia. So basically, being able to have that freedom to travel or bring them in without having to worry about finances or time, that's what keeps us going most of the time, right? And then our daughter now.
Yeah, I knew when I asked that question, you would have an answer for it because of, the growth that you've had in such a short amount of time. Like something's driving you, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
That sounds like a pretty good one. And typically you don't hear that from people that are just like, I just want to make $1 million. It's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah,
the
it's not
same.
that.
It
Well,
doesn't have the same
the,
power
the
behind
money it's part of it, but
it.
I think if your money has to have purpose, or else it's not gonna do anything for you.
Yeah, what's it for? What's the money for? Why do you want the money? What would you do with it, right?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's great. And I'm sure that's going to keep you going for a while. What are you doing right now to improve yourself? You do any like self-help kind of stuff or?
Um, I love, like, so I always read books. I'm not read. I listen to books. Let's put it like that. I'm not a big like actual reader, but I love listening to books. I've been kind of slacking lately, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to stuff on Facebook. I'm a big Gary Vee fan, so I
Oh
follow
yeah.
a lot of his stuff. Again, it's more of like I try to keep myself educated. I go to events, seminars, and things like that to keep myself sharp. I think if you stop learning and educating yourself, you basically like die.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you feel like, hey, I kind of know everything I need to know. Yeah, you probably should go
Yeah.
somewhere to some event or get another book or something.
Because I hate being complacent too. Like I hate feeling like I'm good. Like, so that's the one thing that, like, okay, like there's always something new or something I can do better. So what can I do better? And maybe I can implement now, but I have that knowledge. I'm kind of like, if I want to get somewhere, how do I get there? And so I like to kind of have an idea first and then work my way there backwards, right?
Yeah.
How,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, what are you doing if you don't know where you're headed to?
yeah,
Right? You're like moving somewhere, but if you're not facing the right way, you're going the wrong
exactly. Yeah,
stuff, but not doing it in the right direction. What any of those books that you listen to resonate with you or that you remember
oh man,
that you
can I
recall being
cheat
like,
and look? There's a few that I can't remember. Like one of the biggest ones when we were scaling that I really like was Traction. Is it Traction?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that one was like one of my like favorites as far as that goes. a really like, I don't know, I'd say unconventional one that, it's not like so much as self-help, but more of sales. I like sales and stuff like that, is the Sales Survival Guide by Grant Cardone.
Huh. I
This
haven't
gives
seen that.
you a bunch of, it's like a bunch of like objections and like ways to overcome those objections. Some
Hmm.
can be a little like obnoxious at times, but they're like good ideas to keep you thinking on creative ways to get to the real truth when you're dealing with sales. But let's see here.
You kind of like just find the ones that fit your personality and your style and just use those. The ones that don't feel natural,
Yeah,
you kind of stay away from.
stay away from them,
Yeah.
and but at least like if there's one that's kind of like really like weird, which was like, if he says like, hey, I need to pray for it, and like I need to pray on it, it's because the person is religious, and he's like, well, I understand, let's pray together.
Oh,
And I think that God
it's kind of
won't steer us
disingenuous.
wrong
You're
or
just
whatever.
doing it as a,
Yeah, so it's a tactic where you're like, okay, let's do it together, so I can get the answer right away. I don't think I wouldn't do that,
it's
nothing
like,
like that, but
yeah. Yeah. If
it's
you
like
were to like stop and speak your mind at that minute and say, hey, I'm really in this deal right now, so I'm going to pray with you so that I can get this deal and move.
yeah, move on. So like that's the part, but it keeps you creative of like, man, these are things that you can use. And but that one is the Sales Survival Guide, or the Closer Survival Guide, actually. um I'm trying to look at Traction, that I really liked. And
Yeah, with regard to traction, because we were talking earlier too about some of the issues that you've recently overcome, and that you were dealing with, and that's like the time constraint thing, and you guys got into traction, I guess,
yeah.
and started doing that. So what was that process like? What was the pain that you were experiencing in the business, and then how did you guys go about systematically hiring people? And
Yeah, actually, Traction came in right when we were starting, because I knew there were some pains that I don't know about that I would do, and there's things that I needed to focus on. So I think what came on with Traction was more of the of like like knowing where to focus and how to do like meetings. Like we have weekly meetings, huddles, things like that, and that was an implementation that we did very quickly. And then also like the KPIs and the goals and what to look for. That's kind of where we were trying to structure to make sure that we were not missing pieces of information that could drastically, improve our performance and things like that.
yeah,
And going back to systematizing um, things and software and stuff like that.
yeah. And did you guys have regular meetings before you started growing the team?
Um, Not really. So me and my partner used to talk like almost every day, like 4 times a day. We'll go over stuff and things happen, so we kind of let each other know. But we didn't have a formal meeting to discuss, okay, like this is our sales meeting, we're going to discuss the sales process. What are we doing, like what do we have going on our houses they're selling, what's the challenges, how can we improve them, types of thing. So now
Yeah,
we have
that's a
like,
huge point, right? I mean, when you're not doing the regular meetings, because went in and out of this too, Melissa and I, like through the years of early investing, where it's like, well, we're talking to each other today, but when you stop and think about it, and what I thought about when you were saying that was you're talking about fires, right? You're talking about the things that you've got to do, but you're not talking about high level stuff. You're not talking about the planning part of it. And those
yeah,
weekly meetings give you that time to set us
exactly,
to then realize, hey, we're wasting time doing all that stuff that we're talking about. We should be doing this instead. And then, yeah, it's just a big thing. Even if it's a small team, even if it's just you need to stop and have a meeting with yourself or a friend or something
yeah,
to like
I
talk
agree.
through that stuff and get
Now
that.
that we have it, I definitely, yeah, I would say like, even if you're one person team, set yourself meetings for important things to like go over with yourself. Because again, it's so easy in the day to day, like I said, to be focused on all the fires you have to put and things you have to do that you forget, and to look at, okay, like what can I do to make myself a little bit more available for more important things. So that's a great way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we get busy. You get busy and you
Yeah.
not do that. It's like, I don't have time for it. Well, you need to make time for it, because the reason why you don't have time, but I'm still learning that too. Like even this week, I sat down Monday and said, okay, what did I do today? What frustrated me? What drained my energy?
Yeah.
And, I've done that before on occasion, but it's like, I need to be really good about doing that almost every day. And, looking back, it's kind of eye opening to say, man, I just like my afternoon was ruined because I did this one thing that I shouldn't have been doing. Someone else should have done it.
Yeah. That's interesting though. I never thought about that. So like you go over like what happened in your day and figure out like what are the things that were productive for you and the things that drained your energy and really messed up your day. That's
Right. Because
never thought about that. That's cool.
yeah, like Monday, I spent some probably like 2 hours on one thing that I always figured I liked.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I like doing this, and I did it. And then later I was like, oh my gosh, like that really pissed me off. Like that frustrated me. And I was like, why? And it's like, because of the processes in place for doing that one thing. When I think about the fact that I like it, just without after, if I'm not having just done it,
Mm-hmm.
um, just the idea of doing it seems fun. But when I'm
Yeah.
actually doing it, I find out that there's so much more involved and I don't like it.
You
Honestly.
like the idea, you don't like the actual process of it.
Right. Well, yeah. Change the process. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, you guys do this first. And then if you need
Yeah.
anything, come to me, and then maybe I'll double check it or something afterwards. But
Yeah.
so
No,
it was, like really
that's
changes your
that's
day,
cool.
like whenever
Yeah.
you come home and you just feel energized instead of like drained going, man, what did I do all day? I don't even.
Yeah, you feel like you did something, but you didn't do enough because you kept like I have yeah. It's like gosh, like I could have done more if I just had not done that part. But I think that's a self thing that I don't do it like cautiously like you're saying. And I think it's something that's important because it gives you more clarity too on things that you could be passing on to somebody else to do. That's a cool
Yeah,
thing.
just
I'll
forcing
steal
yourself to
that
have the
from you.
time to be able to look back.
I'm stealing it for sure. Sorry.
Yeah, and I've been making a note to myself too this week for after leaving the office to like go for a walk or something for like 10 minutes,
Uh-huh.
just to completely leave all of it at the office when I go home. And I'm still like, I haven't done it yet this week, and here it is Thursday, so I've got to do it today. Like
Yeah.
I need to try to do that. But um, anyway, back to growing that team. So who did you guys feel like you needed first, and why?
So our first was the transaction coordinator. I think, and it boiled down because we were like getting a lot of houses under contract and having to deal with title and like we have our private lenders, and kind of that piece that has so many moving parts. And if you're not on top of it, like you delay closing, you don't send something to title. And look, I work with an amazing title company. I love. I don't know if I can give a shout out here or not, but
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, Patricia Sanchez from First Western. She's amazing. But like she's not dealing with only my files. She's dealing with other files. So
Mhm.
things end up falling through the cracks, So I don't like that. So that's why I was the first one to kind of like, okay, you stay on top of this, make sure that all our paperwork, insurance is a big one. We've like cut it really close a few times with like we're closing today and we don't have the quote so we can't start the insurance
Oh
type
man.
thing.
Yeah.
So so that all those things like that was the number one aspect of it. And then I think the second one was bringing on the VA for the admin, and my wife is like the as far as the sales go, that's more of that's really helpful. But those two were like, okay, I need to take all the minutia things that we do every day to pass it on to people, and that was like the main stuff.
So what type of person? How did you find out the right person to look for each of those positions?
So the on the VA, sorry, on the transaction coordinator, it actually worked to my advantage. Nina, when she worked in school, she had a gentleman that used to be an attorney a while back. He's a little bit older, and he just kind of like teaches for fun. But he's really good friends of ours, right? And he's just like, look, I know you guys are doing. I think there's something cool. Like, if you guys need, like, would want anybody involved, let me know. And this was like a long time ago. So I was like, look, would you be open to this and working at a transaction fee and stuff like that? So him was more like progressive. I trust him enough, he knows some because he used to be an attorney. So he kind of knows a little bit about like law and things and transactions. So, and I could coach him. So I was very like on the coachable side. So I could tell him like, look, this is how I want things to be done. Cause I'm a control freak. And if you ask my wife and my partner, they'll attest to that for sure. So like if you can be coachable and follow the steps that I have laid out for you, I think we wouldn't have any problems, and be proactive. Right. So that's kind of where it was more personality and trust that for the transaction portion of it. And then the VA was mainly like, okay, have somebody that can follow instructions, has some experience with working as a VA for real estate, and that can somewhat be autonomous. So I can give them stuff, they can try to figure it out, and if they have a problem, they'll come to me, not just come to me asking questions all the time, type thing.
Yeah, that's good. How many hours is the VA doing work, and what kind of work does that VA do for you?
So part-time, and she does some of my marketing things that we have to implement. So like she does our Facebook stuff that are more like non-organic. She does blog posts, and she does for example, if I need to call saws because we need to get the turn off the lights or something, or turn on or whatever. So she does like a lot of the admin tasks. Like we had her yesterday, for some reason it wasn't showing some of our houses on our bills for sauce. So she just called them and all the houses that we own and find out what's the account number and the exact address, so we could add it to the online system to be able to make the payment. So things like that. So it's more of like a day-to-day type thing, and marketing help. So the marketing help is like more structured, and the rest of the stuff is like, I need you to call these 4 sellers today, call them for me.
Where did you find the VA?
It was a service company it's called, I think, Alves, Investors VA Services.
Okay, so
I've
like VAs for investors.
Yeah, so I've looked on. I interviewed a few on what's it called? Upwork. Yeah, Upwork, and I talked to some other companies, but I felt that like this company is a little bit more expensive as far as like the hours, but they train the VAs on the real estate side, and they have that support system because they are VAs for real estate. And I knew some people also in my network that used that service for it. So that's kind of where.
Do you mind asking what that cost?
I think it's like $9 an hour.
Okay.
I have to check, but it's $9 an hour.
And the VA's Philippines or US or?
Philippines.
Philippines.
Yeah.
All right. And how is the conversation? Is it very fluent English, or is it
like super fluent English? Like you can, maybe if you talk to her for a little bit longer, you can feel the accent. But it's a she, RVA. But it's like really good English. So she can talk to sellers or talk to stuff. Obviously, you have to give her some guidance as far as certain things how you want to approach, but super good. And she's like, I really like her. So I think it was a good fit.
Awesome. So you have the VA, you've got the transaction coordinator, and then what other positions did you then bring in?
So yeah, those are the 2 positions that are outside. My wife came in on the sales side, handling that because, other than just her listing and we have other realtors that list, but we also have to check, like, make sure the houses are always clean, grasses are always cut when they're for sale, scheduling cleaning when the house is ready, doing blue tape or or they put punch out list. We call it blue tape, but the punch out list.
The roll of blue tape, man. That's what we're gonna call it.
the the contractor's nightmare, right?
Yeah. 2 pages of stuff. I thought I was done.
I know. So she does that. So that initial part is where I brought in, and then now we're focusing on bringing someone in for the construction side, as far as to manage, the contractors. Because right now my partner does the management. We worked in a way where our crews, we have 3 crews that we work almost like full-time basis with them, and then we brought in a 4th one. But like right now we kind of have an arrangement with them where like we set up the stuff, we buy the materials, like the finished materials, and they pick it up and install. But like every once in a while you have like, oh shoot, we forgot to buy a light, but the contractor can't come back and you didn't want to delay, so you have to go and pick up the light or go get the leftover tile. So we need to get that person to do that sort of stuff and check on the houses like every day and things like that, more consistent basis. So that's the next step. And then the acquisition is another one too, for us, trying to bring an acquisition.
So what how do you feel about that? I mean, I put that off for the longest time. How do you feel about bringing somebody in to go on those appointments for you?
Well, it's the most nerve-wracking one, because that's how you get the kill, let's say, to eat, right? So
yeah.
But I think what we ended up doing was we set up parameters. So even for right now, me and him sat down initially and said, look, these are the parameters that we buy. Our software calculates everything for us as far as like, look, you put the ARV, the house, the renovation. We'd have like basically a rehab estimator that you just put square footage and it gives you, what the budget should be. And then you have the, and then it spits out what your purchase price needs to be in order to meet our requirement margin that we want to make on deals. Right. So that's what what makes me a little bit more like okay with it. But then the main part that I see from talking to other people that have acquisitions folks is training them, right? So it's on me to make sure that they know what they're doing, and you need to find somebody that you can trust, that they're not going to just do stuff just to get paid, right? And we've figured it also we haven't implemented, but we were thinking of the commission structure to be something that, look, if you get it under contract and you don't, and the numbers are completely off, we're going to check those numbers. And if they're off, you're going to have to, you're either not going to get paid or you're going to have to go back and renegotiate. And you don't want that,
Right.
So
yeah. And I don't know, maybe more incentive based instead of punishment based, right?
I don't know. Yeah.
If we determine the ARV, I don't know. I mean, that just came to mind. I don't know if that would work or not, but it's like, if we have Mayo maximum allowable offer calculated as this, and you get it for $5,000 less, like, well, you're going to get an extra.
No, yeah, they get paid more. So the idea that we had, and again, we haven't implemented, so it's just the idea to see if it works, is they get paid on percentage of profit.
Oh yeah. So the more, the cheaper they get it, the more.
The cheaper they get, and they get, for example, they get estimated profit too. So for example, we'll double check the ARV and we double check the reconstruction estimate. And then once we calculate all that, then it gives us what we expected to make on that deal, right? And that's when they get the commission. So, for example, if the project's do
you know other people that do that?
I've heard people that do it differently, but I don't know. I just don't. I thought that was.
How whenever you guys do the flips, how accurate are you guys with your projected and then your actual profit? Like, are you guys always dialed? I'd just be careful of that, because you're paying them based on assumptions that you're going to make a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then if you don't, what do? You can't get the money back. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But was it done that way just because you feel like that's out of their hands? Like, if we bungle.
Yeah, if the project takes longer, it's out of their hands. if we sell for less than we thought we were going to sell, it's out of their hands. So, but also like I estimated what other people were paying as far as like commission on that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, I think I had people paying like 10% or 15% of profit, you know, of like actual profit after everything, right, is done. And I felt like if we go like at a 7% or something like that, you know, with a more, you know.
Yeah, but if I was hearing this, I would think like 7%, 10%,
Yeah,
knowing it's off the final number. So
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
there could be cases where you guys like kick yourself for the part of the projected. And
Yeah, exactly. That's
property
that's the other part that we kind of like, and we're it's gonna be like a trial basis. I think it's just, I don't know. And you had an acquisition guy, or you still have, right, an acquisitions person?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
it's not to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, when you're weighing these things, you might have a better idea and it might work out better, but just take a look at that and, maybe run some scenarios where it doesn't work out well for you guys. And what does that look like? Pays out
yeah,
20 grand and you guys like lost 3,000 or something. I mean, it could
yeah,
happen.
true.
Like, it's
You're
probably
gonna
not
lose.
likely, but
Yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't make 20,000. That would mean that there was a lot of profit that, room
yeah,
for profit in there, but I
yeah.
don't know.
No.
Just like run some scenarios though.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea, because again, that's what we were thinking as far as that goes. But
Because that would motivate you guys too to make sure that you are dialed in on the rehabs and getting them done quickly and selling for top dollar, because he's
that's
got a
true.
stake in that too. And you guys are working as a team,
Yeah,
so it's like, hey, we're a team here, and so we all get paid based on how the team does, not how one person does versus the
how
other.
one person performed. Yeah, I like it. I think, yeah. Now when you put it that way, it makes sense, because the way the way I was telling you and that we were thinking about structuring, it makes everybody separate. It's like,
Right,
I do my thing, you do your thing. If you mess up, it doesn't affect me.
right.
So yeah, I like it. It's
Yeah, you're
more of
playing as
a,
a team. Yeah.
sure. I like it. Well, we
Um,
just changed the commission structure.
yeah, no, it's exciting, like getting in and having that person do the acquisitions and having it working out and finding out that they're getting more contracts than you do. Like
Yeah.
that happened with us. I was like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think people are going to get as many as I get. And then you find out that they do or more. And then
Yeah.
you're at a conference for 4 days or something and you're getting text that you just got 2 deals. Like nothing feels better than that. Like I
I
didn't
know.
have to go there. I didn't have to be there. It just happened.
Yeah, I bet.
Right.
we'll get we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, no. You guys are doing awesome, man. You guys have grown quite a bit in just
Yeah.
few years, and building this team up took us like 10 years before we started building the team up. I mean, that's incredible and it's awesome. I think you guys you're doing it for the right reasons. You shared your why and it's driving you, and that's really cool to hear and motivating. If everybody out, did you want to share anything else? Is there anything else you want to tell everybody and on listening?
I think we covered a lot of good stuff. Unless you have anything else that we want to chat, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something about permits. If you wanted to share something about that real quick, was it like an issue that you came across?
Yeah. So again, when you start doing a lot of renovations, you start like learning things on the permitting side, and we had a few houses that like we didn't know we needed to pull certain permits, because, for example, like we're changing a tub, a toilet, some plumbing fixtures and things like that. In our understanding before, those are considered cosmetic, so we don't have to pull permits, or we're adding 2 extra lights and just changing light fixtures. Those things, like, we didn't know, but the city started getting at us of like, look, you guys are doing these extra things, so you need to start pulling certain permits in order to do that. So, for example, if you change a tub, like if you just change the fixtures, you're fine. But if you change a tub, you're messing with, I don't know, that's their excuse. You're messing with plumbing, yeah, the plumbing pipes and stuff like that. So
Where was this happening? Was this happening from the inspectors when you were selling it, or were they stopping by your job sites?
Yeah, they were dropping by our job sites, because we had we do like marketing for houses, right? So they would look like we have big projects that were basically like full gutting everything. So those, we need permits, but the ones that are more cosmetic and we're doing little things, like they would just pop by and just like and take a look at it. And they're like, well, stop work because there's more work than, than we're supposed to, or need to pull permits for this and that. So we're going to stop kind of getting, like how we have meetings with the inspectors a couple times to kind of clarify, like, what are you really expecting? Because again, if I change a toilet, I don't think I should like have to
Yeah.
pull a plumbing permit.
Right.
But so they said, well, toilets is fine, but if you're moving things here and there, you might, if you're moving the sink from here to there, you should pull a permit. And it boils down to one of those things, right? Like, is the risk. And right now, when you do a lot of when we're doing a lot of volume, I think, for us, the permits are really cheap per se. So I would just like, look, instead of us trying to get in trouble or trying to wear way around it, like, let's just go about it. So there's a lot of things on the permitting process that we learned. There's like, you have to get, which I wasn't quite sure, but you have to get permits for fencing, for if you have a deck above, I think 30 feet, you have to get, not 30 feet, or 30 inches, sorry. You have to get a permit. You have to get, if you're just doing a re-roof, you have to get a permit for re-roof, and you have to get inspected and things like that. It's like the re-roof permit we knew, but we didn't know we had to get like a final inspection on a re-roof or something like that. So I'm like those things are like some of the stuff that like as we're scaling, we're like end up kind of learning,
that's
and creating processes behind it, right? Checking permits also, that's a huge one that we've got in trouble in one house that we're still fixing. Is we bought it from an investor and didn't pull any permits, but did like a new AC, did some other stuff. And so for my knowledge, I was like, okay, like I'm buying it as is and I'm just doing the cosmetic. Literally, we did floors, paint, cabinets, and that's it. Like we didn't even put the plumbing stuff there.
A bunch of extra cost because it wasn't up to code or something, right?
Yeah, no, we had to get because they checked on the other houses, they went by that one. They said, well, this is a 1950s house. How the hell you guys have, a brand new AC? And I don't know how it came about. And so they made us go back and pull permits.
Yeah. So they actually went around to all your properties. How did they do a search on BCAT or something?
They went to our website. So they saw there was 2 houses, and this is our fault. 2 houses that we weren't going to do a re-roof, but it rained. And then like we saw there was a few leaks like in some spots. And we're like, well, it's not worth us repairing this. Let's just do a re-roof. And we didn't change the permit. So they passed by the job site and they saw there was a new roof, or saw the guys working. I don't know what the story was. So they tagged us on that. We went to and then they went to our website and started looking at the stuff that we had going on. So I don't know. It's a weird.
It looks like you said too, when you're doing that much rehabbing, they're going to get to know you, and you don't want to have those guys on your bad side. I mean, they look miserable if they want to.
Yeah. So but then
balancing act there, I guess.
Yeah, they are. And again, we learned that again. So if you're buying a house, and it goes with it goes either or, but like if you buy a house and there is work done that you know of, that wasn't permitted, and it could be recently done, like you have to get a permit on that. So our acquisition process now is, like we run comps and look at BCAD for the stuff, we look at development services to see if there's any open permits or work that was done and failed inspection, so we can know, okay, if they did plumbing and they didn't pass an inspection, we're going to need to go back and fix that, issue.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's something that a lot of people aren't doing.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you might, if you're doing 1 or 2, you might be fine, but if you start doing a lot, you're going to get caught on one. So just pay attention.
Well, thanks a lot, Victor. It's been great having you on the show. We got a great episode, talked about a lot of cool stuff, and you guys are doing great. It's a really good story about what you guys have done and growing your team and all that kind of stuff. Great information. If anybody out there listening wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can find find us through the web, through our Facebook pages. We have two. One for is Shape Up Home Buyers, and you can see posts of me there. And Victor Alves is my Facebook, or you can reach me at 210-920-0277 or info@shapeuphomeBuyers.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Victor. And
Awesome. Thanks, Danny.
we'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks.